Have you ever just stopped and wondered, why do I act the way I do? Why some things feel so natural and other situations feel just impossibly hard? Well, it turns out the answer often comes down to this hidden force that's shaping your entire life, your self-image. It's like an invisible script that's directing your story, and today we're going to pull back that curtain and really take a look.
So let's kick things off with a number that is, well, it's pretty staggering. 99.9%. What in the world does this represent? Get this, it's the common thread, the shared root of nearly every single psychological challenge that people face.
So yeah, what's the one thing that connects everything from relationship struggles to a crippling lack of confidence? You guessed it, a distorted self-image. The way we see ourselves, that mental picture, is literally the source code for our happiness and our struggles. And just understanding this, that's the first huge step to changing it.
So how are we going to unpack all this? Well, we're going to go on a little journey. First, we'll get right to the root of the problem. Then we'll map out your inner blueprint. We'll talk about the mirrors that have shaped who you are and, crucially, what happens when those reflections get all twisted. We're also going to look at a really destructive pattern called the pendulum, and most importantly, we'll figure out how to find your true reflection. All right, let's dive right in. Section 1, the root of our problems. What is at the absolute heart of so many of our struggles? It all comes down to this core idea, that the way we see ourselves might not be accurate at all.
And you've got to understand, your self-image isn't just a list of facts, like your name or your job title. Oh no, it goes so much deeper than that. Think of it as the subconscious foundation of who you are. It's the core belief you hold about your own worth, your abilities, and even whether you deserve to be loved.
Okay, so here's the thing. This inner blueprint, it's not just sitting there doing nothing. It actually sets off this powerful chain reaction that determines how you show up in the world every single day. Let's break down how that actually works. See, it all starts with your self-image. That lives in your thoughts. The things you think about yourself, whether it's I'm capable or I'm not good enough, those thoughts directly create your level of self-acceptance. And that's all about your feelings. Do you feel worthy? Do you actually like yourself? And then, of course, those feelings drive your self-assertiveness, which is your behavior. How you act is a direct result of how you think and feel about you. And this whole chain reaction leads to the ultimate goal, healthy behavior. We call it self-assertiveness. And just to be clear, this isn't about being a doormat or a bully. It's about finding that confident, balanced sweet spot where you can stand up for yourself respectfully. It's the natural, powerful outcome of a healthy self-image. Okay, so that raises a huge question, right? Where does this self-image even come from in the first place? I mean, how is it formed? To get that, we need to talk about the mirrors that have shaped our lives. Think about it like this. You know what your face looks like because you've seen it in a mirror, right? Simple. But how do you know what your inner self looks like? Well, you learn it from the reflections you get from other people, especially when you're young. Your parents, your teachers, your friends, they all acted as mirrors, reflecting back to you an image of who you were. And that leads to a really powerful question that we should all ask ourselves. What kind of mirrors shaped your reflection? Were they kind, critical? Were they even there? The quality of those early reflections probably became the very foundation of the self-image you carry around today. And this is exactly where things can get messy. Because here's the catch. Unlike a physical mirror, human mirrors are often distorted. They don't always give us an accurate picture, not even close. We can think of these distortions like those trick mirrors you see at a carnival. First, you have the convex mirror. This is the one created by people who are always critical, or neglectful, or total perfectionists. This mirror shrinks your reflection, making you feel tiny, insignificant, like you're never good enough. Then you've got the opposite, the concave mirror. This one is caused by way too much unearned praise, by spoiling, by a total lack of discipline. This mirror inflates your image, making you feel entitled and way more important than you really are. And let me tell you, both are dangerous distortions. The source material uses this really, harsh but incredibly effective analogy for that convex mirror. It says this kind of reflection, the one born from constant criticism, can make you see yourself as totally worthless, as small and insignificant as a cockroach. It's just a devastating way to see yourself. And for the other side, that concave mirror, there's this old proverb that just nails it. The monkey in its mother's eyes is a gazelle. This is that inflated reality where all your flaws are ignored and every little thing you do is treated like a work of genius. It creates a person who is completely unprepared for the real world, where they find out they are not, in fact, a gazelle.
Now, what happens when your whole sense of self is built on these wonky, unstable, distorted reflections? Well, it leads to a very predictable and pretty destructive pattern of behavior.
It's called the pendulum effect, and it makes perfect sense, right? Because if your inner self isn't stable, your behavior can't be stable either. You end up swinging, sometimes violently, from one extreme all the way to the other, never able to find that healthy, assertive middle ground.
So how does this cycle actually play out? Well, it often starts with being submissive. Someone with a shrunken self-image might just bottle up their frustration and anger for a long time. But that internal pressure cooker can only handle so much before it explodes in this burst of aggression that seems to come out of nowhere. And what happens next? A tidal wave of guilt and remorse. To make up for it, the pendulum swings back hard, not just to the middle, but even further into submission than before. And that just builds more pressure for the next inevitable explosion. It is a truly vicious cycle. So, if the convex and concave mirrors are the problem, what's the solution? How do we break these cycles? How do we start to heal our self-image?
The solution is all about finding what's called a plane mirror. You know, a flat, true mirror that reflects reality exactly as it is, no shrinking, no inflating. So how do you find one? Well, it starts by actively looking for feedback from wise, balanced people that you trust. It means learning to look at your own strengths and weaknesses with honesty and compassion, not with judgment. It's about building a self-awareness that is totally grounded in reality. And here's the truth. You're going to encounter distorted mirrors for the rest of your life. Some people will try to shrink you, and others will try to inflate you. But now you have this awareness, and with that awareness comes power, the power to choose. You can learn to reject the distortions, and instead hold on to a true, balanced, and healthy reflection of who you are. So the final question is, which reflection will you choose to believe?